Hey everyone, so I'm posting two videos because I will post one to answer Tim's question. Thank you, Tim, for asking the question. And then I'll cut that there. So, depending on how long you want to listen to me talk, you can stop right there and then watch the other one at another time or whatever you want to do, right? And then in the second video, I will give some tips and something that we can do to start on our mind training. Because for the self respect piece, what we really have to get to work at is training the mind, right? And really, that's in the end, that's all we have to do. So, mind training, just, we started at grade 1 and then we go to a master's at some point a couple of weeks later, sometimes a couple of years later. But it doesn't matter. As long as we keep training it, we keep getting better. So Tim's question was, how did I become a life coach? And I guess also the question is, how long have I been one and what have I done? So I will try to keep it short. But back in 2009, I joined a program with Jim Bunch, and his program was called The Ultimate Game of Life. He still runs that today, and he's been working on it, improving it. But back then we had a lot more one-on-one time with him, and we would go out and actually meet with him once in a while, and we really had a chance to really get to know each other. So that was back in 2009. I started with his 90-day program that he did. Once I finished the 90-day program, I did his 1-year program for another year, right? And then after the 1-year program was done, I actually signed up again for the 3-year program. And after the second year of the 3-year program ended, I continued that third year, but at the same time, I joined his master's program, as he called it, which was training us to be coaches. So then in that year I did, finished both at the same time. I was a student, and then I also learned how to be a teacher at the same time. So that's a very quick answer. Now here's a little bit about Jim Bunch. Jim Bunch learned what he learned from a guy called Thomas Leonard. And of course he learned a lot more from all kinds of other people, but what he was using is the 9 environments model, and that's a very, very helpful model that I will tell you guys about as well, because I'm still using that. And all my clients, of course, I've used it with them because it works and they've had great results. And it is something where you can get started with seeing results fast when you just even know about the model and just think about the model once a day. Really, it's really amazing. But Thomas Leonard was the person who created this model, and also he was the person that they called the founder of the coaching industry, or of the profession as a life coach. And he founded Coach University in 1992. Now he passed away in 2003, and Jim Bunch met him a couple years before that, when Thomas actually wasn't working with students one-on-one anymore. But Jim heard about him and he saw him speak at an event, and he loved what he had to say so much, and he said, I want to do what Thomas is doing. So he basically begged him for a while to take him on as a one-on-one client, and Thomas said, no, I don't take one-on-one clients anymore. But Jim didn't take no for an answer, so eventually Thomas said okay, and they became actually great friends. So Jim learned from Thomas and I learned from Jim. And then, of course, all the other places where I've learned things. For instance, I was in the military for 6 years. That was United States Army. Yeah. And there I was part of the unit ministry team. I was what they call a chaplain assistant. And basically my job was to do everything so that the chaplain could focus on holding sermons and doing the things that he needed to do. And that was really fun because I got to do everything, from mowing the lawn to pre-counseling soldiers and everything in between, putting out the cookies and putting out fires everywhere. So that was what I was doing in the military, and part of that was special training. We got training in marriage counseling, we got training in trauma, how to do trauma work for groups and for individuals. And also I was in charge of I was the suicide prevention trainer in Fort Lewis back in 2001, I was sent to Kansas to a manager clinic to train to become a trainer. And when I came back, I had to basically, I was teaching as many soldiers as I could possibly get my hands on, because there were 20,000 of them in Fort Lewis at the time. And I couldn't speak to all of them in 1 year, but I spoke to a lot of them about suicide prevention, and taught them how to see when their buddies were at risk for suicide, and then what to do and what not to do. Because back in 2000, the United States Army had a high rate of suicide, higher than it had been before, and they felt that, or they needed to do something about that. So they started this program, and I was one of the first people that were trained in being a suicide prevention trainer, essentially. So then later on, when I got out of the military, I also became a personal trainer, kind of in the fitness thing, keep your body in shape. I also am a certified yoga instructor, and I am a certified holistic nutritionist, meaning that when we're looking at how to make someone healthy, looking not only at what they're eating and how much they're eating, but also everything like how do they live, what's their lifestyle, are they up at night a lot, is their schedule all over the place, do they have a lot of stress, do they work hard with a lot of movement, or are they sitting at a desk all day, and putting all of those things together, including traumatic events that they might have had in the past, and all those things. So basically, since I joined the military, which was back in 1996, when I joined the unit ministry team, and started also, one of the things we were doing was pre-counseling for soldiers when they came in and when they had issues with the military or their families. So basically, I guess I've been working in that field for my whole life. I joined the military when I was like 21 or maybe 22. You can try to do the math for yourselves, but anyway, so yeah, I guess since 1996, and I've done a few other things in between that I wasn't too happy with, that made more money, but the passion wasn't there, and those were not my most fun times. My best times were the times when I was actually working with people, helping them in that capacity as a guide, as a coach, as a personal trainer, all that. So what happened though is that about now it's I guess 3 years ago, I noticed that while my clients were having great results with what I was teaching them, and they were doing their thing, I got to a point where I noticed that I wasn't doing that for myself anymore. Because one of the things that I teach is how to live a life on purpose, or a life that you design around the things that you're good at and the things that make you feel good, right? And I kept telling them to stay away from people that are not helpful in that mission, and to not do things that they really don't want to do. That really, it feels like their soul is telling them to go somewhere, do something else somewhere else. And I noticed that that's what was happening with me. My soul was telling me that I needed to take care of a few things in my life that weren't going the way that I really wanted them to go, and they weren't healthy for me. They were keeping me from serving a bigger purpose. They were actually keeping me small, keeping me limited. And I had to go make some changes again, as we have to do every so often. Like we learn something, we grow, and then it's kind of stagnation, and that stagnation is good for a while until it's no longer serving us anymore, and then we need to grow again, make some changes, and then we get to that next higher level of awareness and consciousness in life. So I had to go do that, and I stopped everything. Actually, I'm just realizing that, I had done that several times before. And when I stop something, I go drastic. Like everything changes. I tear down everything and I build it right back up. And you don't have to do that. most of my clients didn't have to do that, but that's just part of who I am. Like, you know, if I don't like something anymore, I tear it all down completely. Then I go and I pick out the good things that were there, and I pick them up, and then I build something new around that. So yeah, so that answers the question. Hopefully, Tim, and also now you guys know a little bit more about my, I guess, you know, professional background. But really, the most important thing is, if you're here in this group and you're like listening to what I'm saying, is that, you know, what's the feeling that you get from the things that I'm saying? You know, if it resonates with you, if you're like, oh yeah, I can see, you know, I don't know, something true, it sounds like a good idea or whatever, then keep listening, okay? Because titles and things really don't have much to say, although they can be very helpful. So I'll let you make your own decision on that. And I will stop this video now and then make another one where I will talk about beliefs and give a first tip on something that you can start doing right now to help make your mind kind of calm down and basically start mind training so that we can become superpower human space unicorn plurries. Okay, I'll talk to you then. Bye.